Guys, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I think that was me.
So, here's a take you'll probably disagree with, but Roland Emmerich is a bum of a director, and if you don't believe me, let me just point out his body of work. After Independence Day was a big hit, he was charged with ushering in a new wave of summer blockbusters, all of which were overhyped, and all of which ended up being
one big pile of shit.
One turd in particular that stands out in this pasture of poop is Godzilla, the movie that paired P. Diddy with Led Zeppelin and did more damage to Japanese and American relations than the atomic bomb. Do you like Godzilla movies with only 11 minutes of Godzilla in them?
I don't know.
Well, then sit back and let's suffer together as we take a spoiler-heavy look at Godzilla 1998. So Godzilla starts like any great movie, with a child star wondering where it all went wrong. That's right, Matthew Broderick stars as Dr. Nico Zotopoulos.
Dr. Nico Topopopoulos. It's Zotopoulos.
Hey, did you like that joke? Well, good, because it's going to be repeated about 40 times in this movie. While doing field research in Russia, where it somehow rains when there's no clouds in the sky, he's recruited by the U.S. Army to take radiation levels inside of a footprint for some reason.
Dr. Nico Topopopoulos. It's Zotopoulos.
And it's here that he meets paleontologist Elsie Chapman, who is not played by Kathy Griffin, and who, despite being annoyed by Nico's presence, wants to bone him immediately.
Be so horny, me love you long time.
After giving Nico doomy eyes for a few minutes, she informs him that a Japanese cannery ship was attacked off the coast of French Polynesia. Cut to New York City, where we meet Audrey, the former girlfriend of Nico, who is acting her little heart out.
I was so sure I'd make it, but I haven't.
And she desperately wants to be a reporter, but for some reason is never able to get the big break that she needs. Now you may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with anything? And the answer is nothing.
That's why I needed the story so bad.
Then, in yet another location change, Nico and the army check out some poorly rendered CGI shipwreckage.
How did Mrs. Tadpoles handle that?
It's Zotopoulos.
And after gathering a small tissue sample, Nico explains to the army and to the audience everything you need to know about this creature. And when I say everything, I mean he knows where it came from.
French Polynesian Pacific.
He knows why it's so big.
Caused by the fallout on these islands.
And he even knows that it's a new species of animal.
The dawn of a new species.
I'm a nerd.
As we head back to New York, we see Audrey and her friend Lucy, who can't stop yelling slurs at people for some reason. And she and her husband Victor are giving Audrey some advice on her career. But really, they should be telling her,
You can't act.
No information whatsoever to make us believe.
Meanwhile, down at the docks, two homeless guys are living their best lives, when suddenly Godzilla finally makes his appearance in the movie. Or, well, kind of. We really only get to see his feet. Then, as the army sets up shop in the city, Nico explains what an island is.
An island, water on all sides.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
We are then introduced to a secret team of French people. How do I know they're French? Well, they do all the things that French people love to do, like hang the French flag in weird places, complain all the time,
Oh, you got this coffee?
and talk in ridiculous accents.
C'est marqué French roast.
I'm French. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent?
Anyway, Nico then advises the army that they should lure Godzilla out of hiding with several dump trucks full of fish. And, as luck would have it, the plan works. And we finally get to see Godzilla in all of his terrible CGI glory. Then, as the movie rips off Jaws,
We need bigger guns.
army helicopters begin to chase Godzilla around the city, and for some reason do more damage to New York than Godzilla does. But at least they feel bad about it. Anyway, after making quick work of the helicopters, Godzilla decides to hump a building for some reason. And after running into Audrey at a corner store, Nico learns that Godzilla is pregnant. Unfortunately, Nico's findings fall on deaf ears. And after realizing that the army won't listen to him, and that Audrey has stolen a tape from him in order to advance her career, Nico decides to leave. But he's abducted by the French guys. Yeah, remember them? Well, it turns out they do more than just complain about coffee all the time. They are actually part of the French Secret Service and want to help Nico destroy Godzilla's nest before it's too late. We then cut to the army doing stuff. And as Godzilla jumps into the Hudson River to get away from them, Navy subs, who have apparently been here the whole time, shoot torpedoes at Godzilla, apparently killing him. We then arrive at the nest of Godzilla. Then, as the eggs begin to hatch, guys in rubber suits come out of them for some reason. Anyway, eventually Audrey and Victor meet up with Nico and the French guys, and they find a way to broadcast from inside Madison Square Garden and convince the army to destroy the building. But as soon as the building is destroyed, Godzilla, who is not dead after all, chases Nico and crew through the streets of New York.
We're in his mouth! That's what she said.
And after ripping off Jurassic Park and getting tangled up in the Brooklyn Bridge, is finally killed by the army. And as the city rejoices, we learned that the celebration may have come too early. You know, I was 13 when this movie came out, and even then, I thought it was pretty bad. So, when I decided to rewatch it for this review, I thought to myself, maybe it wasn't so bad after all, and maybe I've just built it up in my head as being worse than it is. But sadly, no. Everything in this movie is an absolute failure. No one in this movie can act, period. Even Jean Reno, who I think is actually a pretty good actor, is awful in this. But to be fair, he really isn't given much to do here other than just be French. And despite being likable, I've never thought Matthew Broderick was particularly good at acting, but in this movie, his delivery is particularly wooden. And then there's Maria Patillo as Audrey, who is just next level awful. I almost feel bad for saying it over and over again, but as I was watching this movie, I just kept thinking,
Oh, honey.
The effects in this movie are next level bad, even for 1998 standards. And while I can't prove it, I'm almost certain the reason why most of this movie takes place in the rain and at night is so they can hide how bad the effects are. And finally, the script is absolutely atrocious and should be taught in screenwriting courses as an example of what not to do. There's little to no plot in this movie at all. Characters that aren't needed just come along for no reason, and the movie is desperately trying to convince you, through the use of music and choppy editing, that something interesting is happening in this movie, when in reality, nothing is happening. Overall, would I recommend this movie? No, not really. I mean, there are tons of Godzilla movies, all of which are better than this. So, if you just feel the need to watch a Godzilla movie, any of those would be a better choice than this one. It's bland, it's ugly looking, and it's made by one of the worst directors to ever get behind a camera. So honestly, if I were you, I would just skip it completely. Well, that's it for this one, kids. Have you seen Godzilla 1998? What do you think about it? Leave a comment below and let me know. As always, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.